have a very special Podful of Saints tonight on Thursday, the 30th of September 2021, a second edition tonight. First one went so bad we thought we'd do another one. Right, our special guest coming all the way from Spain, former chairman Bernard Tominey. Good evening, Bernard.
Good evening, Dave and Lee and Jake. How are you doing?
We're doing well, mate. We're not in Spain, but yeah, we're doing all right, mate. We're doing all right.
Yeah, it's a bit hot, actually.
A bit hot for you. We've got a wet, cold night, so don't rub it in.
Oh no, it's baking here.
Right, we're going to talk some football matters. We've done the weather.
Yeah.
You grew up in this area, Bernard, and you watched the Saints as a kid. What sort of games and players stand out for you from that time?
Well, I lived 300 yards from the park, actually, in Upper Lattimore Road. So we could hear the crowds cheering on a Saturday afternoon. You know, it was good gates in those days. That was 60s, early 60s. And so my brother and I, brother Adrian, we decided to go and watch some of the games. And we were watching, Sid Prosser was the manager, and we were watching people like Eddie Rolfe, Herbie Smith, Don Francis, who, funnily enough, I later met. We used to have a market stall in the town, and next to me, all that time on the fruit and veg, I didn't realise was Don Francis, who was one of my heroes as a boy, and there he is next to me on the stall. So who else? We had Phil Wood, of course, Dave Lawrence, Barry Payne, Dave Westcott, who once came into our shop and bought some cigarettes. I was really happy. I got his autograph. Barry King. The more memorable moments of those were, we had a few. We won the Mithras Cup, and we were able to go around to the entrance to the dressing rooms, and we drank champagne as little boys out of the cup, and it was great. I think we also won the Aubrey Cup. And then the next thing I remember really was when Coventry came down to open the new floodlights. I think it's around 1965, 64, somewhere.
Charlton Athletic in 63.
Oh, Charlton. It wasn't Coventry, it's Charlton. Yeah, you're right. Of course you are. And they gave us a good hammering, didn't they?
4-1.
4-1, yeah. It was a great game, though, behind the goal. I've never seen a bloke hit the ball so fast. As they had an Italian centre forward.
Fione, however you pronounce it.
Yeah, Firmino or something.
That's
yeah.
One.
Yeah, and he hit it so hard. Anyway, there was then a gap, really. After a few years, we stopped going. I started work, I suppose, and nothing else happened until I bumped into John Mitchell at work, and he invited me down to watch a couple of games. And Bob Murphy was chairman, and Barry Donovan. I went down. Bob, as usual, was saying, "Oh, can you bring us some dough in?" So I got some sponsorship with Schweppes and Coke, and a brewery deal for the club. But he got a bit over demanding, so I didn't go back for a while until then. Mitch came and said, "Oh, it's the club's sort of going belly up. We need someone to come and be chairman. Bob's leaving."
Well, can we wind that back a bit, Bernard? Because in '87, I think it was, you took, as you mentioned, you did a sponsorship because you took on the vice presidency. I think it's the same time as Dave Lobban got involved. But then you went over to Hitchin Town for a season, took a directorship there. What happened there?
Oh, I did. What's his name? Who was our manager? Lawrence.
Well, Pete Lawrence, he was manager there.
Lawrence, he went manager there, and so they said, "Did I fancy being a director at Hitchin?" So I said, "Yeah, okay," because I don't know, we weren't getting on that great at St Albans. And so I thought, rather than meet the demands that was being placed on me by Bob, I should go over to Hitchin and had a season. Yeah, I forgot about that. I had a season there. But then I did, winding on then, I did meet Mitch, and he persuaded me to be chairman, which was for me a fantastic job because St Albans was in my blood, because I've been going there since I was like 8. So we went there. The first thing we tried to do was to organise a new board. Mitch and me, we organised a few blokes to come down to the ground, and we presented them with a dire financial situation paper, confidential, and said, we just want some money to be raised to get the club going. And one of those invitees went and put the blooming confidential paper gave it the Arts Advertiser. And it's all over the back page. The Saints in financial disgrace and all this, you know. I thought, well, that's why we had the meeting, to try and sort it out. Anyway, got involved, got proper sponsorship then with people like Coke. They did the stand then, painted the stand. Schweppes, got them to give us some equipment and money every year. And it started to become quite fun. Well, there was financial difficulties, obviously, but we decided...
You upped at Hitchin Town as well, didn't you? Because the previous summer before you joined, we took Doug Park in from them. You came over, you went back and got Peter Lawrence from them, and yeah, I think you upset them a bit with that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, yeah. Well, they had a weird thing going on, the Cow Commoners. There was a big dispute about who owned their ground. And we had to all become a cow commoner. I never did know what that meant. I suppose it meant I had to go and milk cows at some stage. But yeah, Hitchin was okay. It was quite well run, actually. It was a nice board. But I thought, well, when Mitch said come back to St Albans, that was, you know, as chairman, I was really pleased. I was really happy to do that. And we sat about, I mean, Mitch had already started bringing a few good players in, didn't he? He had Steve Oliver, I can't think of all of them, Martin Gurney, I think they were all there already. When they Paras, they were there. But we then decided we needed to try and attract some more players.
Well, can we stick with Lasher for now, Bernard? Pete Lawrence. Have you ever come across anybody who's got more enthusiasm from football than Peter Lawrence? He's a one-off, isn't he?
He's a one-off, yeah. Lasher, that was his biggest problem, though, because he wanted to lash everyone all the time. And I kept saying to him, they don't take any notice anymore, Pete. Stop lashing them. But yeah, he was a huge enthusiast and a huge follower of Mitch and Mitch's strategies and plans. So yeah, he's a good bloke.
Towards the end of that season, his one season, because you sacked him in between two cup finals, there are two players, Tony Kelly and then Dean Austin in the summer, went off to big time football.
Yeah.
Were you involved much in the Tony Kelly one? I guess you were, because I think you asked, was it Southampton for 100,000 for Kelly, and Chris Nichols thought it might be a bit...
No, I wanted 500,000, didn't I? I got Ian Ridley, I got him to put an article in the Telegraph, didn't I? To say, because I'd phoned up whoever the manager was, I can't remember the manager, used to be at Watford, and he went to Southampton. And he'd phoned me to say he wanted Tony Kelly on trial. But we said, well, hang on, he's our best player, you know? If you sign him, you're in the first division, which is like the Premiership now, would you give us £500,000 for him? And he said, well, I don't know. I said, well, no, it's got to be worth that money. He's a striker. If you like him, and he passes the trial, would you give us that money? So well, I suppose so. So I got Ian Ridley to say, I had a word with Tony Kelly, he told him he didn't want to do that, so he didn't do it. And Ian Ridley put the article in saying that Tony Kelly turns down £500,000 move to Southampton, which then Chris Nichols, that was, he rings me up and says, how dare you put that in the paper? I never offered £500,000. My chairman wants to fire me. So anyway, we went on, and we were trying to raise money, and so I think we'd already sold Andy Cox, which was sacrificial lamb, really, so we could buy it. Was that earlier?
A bit later.
Was that later? And yeah, so we then desperately tried to get somebody sold, and so Tony Kelly was being promoted by us. And we had Bobby Moore involved with us, which we were very fortunate to have behind the scenes. And so he had a word with Alan Ball, because a lot of the scouts that come down to look at Tony Kelly weren't that impressed with him. I think the fans used to call him Stumbles, didn't they? Because whenever he got the ball, he stumbled. But anyway, so Alan Ball came down and he watched us at Stevenage, but he missed the first half because he couldn't find the ground. And he ended up turning up, and I think Tony scored about a hat-trick in about the last 10 minutes. And so he came in and he said, right, I'll buy the boy, but I can only pay 45 or 46 grand. So he said, okay, 46 would do. So he got sold. He did well there, actually, at Stoke for a while. So he went. Then Dean Austin, that was through Dave Webb, who came down. Dave Webb was a good friend of ours, actually. And he would come and he would say, like, find us a player, I'll give you 15 grand and 20% or 25% on sale. So that's how you make your money. So that's how we made the money with Dean Austin. Did I see he's back as director of football there?
Correct, he is. And he's running the academy and
Is he? That's pretty
whatnot.
good.
But
Yeah.
get back to your first season, Bernard. You mentioned Bobby Moore there. You were working for Robert Maxwell, weren't you? You were.
I was working for Ladbrokes in Hilton at that time, actually.
Yeah, that's right. You purchasing vice president or something for Hilton's, weren't you? Of course, that Dreamflight match when you had Bobby Moore, George Best, all the rest of them, you had them staying up at Hilton in Watford the night before the game, didn't you? What was that like? Looking at that sea of faces.
Oh, it was great. We had the big dinner there, didn't we? And we had Laurie McMenemy. You had some ventriloquist dummy took the mickey out of Laurie McMenemy, which was quite funny. We had what's his name? The Scouser comedian, Jimmy Tarbuck. He came on and introduced the world's greatest singer, underrated. And on came Kenny Lynch singing up on the roof, you know. But we had a good gate there. And then actually, it was him that said, "Okay, put $5 on the table. All of you think that George Best isn't coming." So everybody put $5 on the table, and in came George Best. And it was just a great night. It was a fantastic night. All those players. And then when we turned up for the game, I mean, it was incredible, wasn't it? Franz Beckenbauer, George Best, Bobby Moore, Hurst and Peters. I remember Jeff Hurst said he really enjoyed the experience, but next time can he just watch? Because it was a bit knackered. There was also, I remember at the beginning of that Dreamflight game, we had Laurie McMenemy and Malcolm Ellison were managers of the team. And I knew Laurie McMenemy through Sunderland because we sponsored them. And I remember George Best got put through about 4 or 5 times and the linesman put his flag up for offside every time. Well, I can't repeat what Laurie McMenemy said to him, but he basically said, "Please don't stick your flag up again."
I think the highlight of the day probably was Best scoring, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Which he did eventually.
That was a good event, wasn't it? And I'd forgotten, actually, we raised so much money, didn't we? Much more than we ever thought. Because at the beginning, you know, you having to look at it a little while ago. You know, how did we know it would be 25 grand? Well, we knew we had 25 grand, but we didn't know what else would come. But I think it ended up at 60,000, didn't it, for Dreamflight, which was pretty good going. But I think it put us on the map a bit as well. You know, we got some good applause from the national press and that, and it was an unbelievable game, really, wasn't it? It should have been.
I think the two defining elements from that game. Bearing in mind, I was small. I turned around to my dad and said, "This centre half got absolutely rinsed by Brian Talbot." I said, "Dad, that defender's really rubbish. Who is it?" "Oh, that's Franz Beckenbauer, mate. Don't worry, you'll learn that." And so my football knowledge just plummeted from there on in. But also, the ball went out for a goal kick, and Kevin Keegan ran over, and he said to the ball boy, "Give us a kick, son." And obviously, the whole York Road just erupted with laughter. And from there on in, you can see everyone was sort of just eating out of the players' hands, you know. And it was such a momentous occasion to have the quality of those players, albeit a bit more experienced in age, but to have that event at Clarence Park was absolutely sensational.
It was incredible, wasn't it? It was all, actually, we couldn't have done it without Bobby Moore because, in fairness, Bobby never asked favours of anybody. That was apparently the only time he ever asked anybody. And so when they asked all those lot, they all came, including Franz Beckenbauer. And I thought, actually, I'm not speaking out of turn really, but Beckenbauer, I think he said he wanted $2,000 to come. And we thought, that's a charity game, you know, that's a bit out of order. Anyway, we said, yeah, okay, we'll pay him $2,000. So at the end of the game, he came in and said, right, that $2,000 you gave me, here's that back, and here's $2,000 from me. So I thought, I felt so much better now. I thought, that's more like Franz Beckenbauer that we'd have expected, you know. So it was great. And then we had that dinner, didn't we, afterwards?
In the marquee.
In the marquee, and then everybody went off to Calendars in Watford, and there was on the tables Bobby Moore, Jeff Hurst, all this lot. People walking in couldn't believe it. It was on this table. It was just phenomenal.
Were you there, Tabs?
Sorry? No, I
were you there, mate?
No, I wasn't invited into things like that.
Blocked again.
You draw the line somewhere, don't you?
Outrageous.
The end of that season, Bernard, as we mentioned, Pete Lawrence got sacked. You brought in Jimmy Howard. with a sponsorship deal. Well, possibly not your greatest decision ever.
Possibly not. Why did I do that? I think it was to do with sponsorship, wasn't it?
Totally, with J Cars, with the sponsors.
J Cars, that's it, yeah. That we got the money in. I mean, that was the first priority. You know, I mean, things like selling Andy Cox, we didn't really want to do it, but you had to do it because we needed to get 3 in and 1 out. And he was the only sellable asset really we had at that time, I think. And he went to Hayes, didn't he? He was a good player. We didn't like to lose him. Took a bit of stick off some of the fans actually for getting rid of him. But it was purely financial, so we could buy Clarkey and Jimmy King, I think.
Would you remember a couple of years later, moving on a bit, when we had those 2 games out in France? And
in Fraser's.
Fraser was one, and the other one was some Sunday League side, FC Puget. And Coxey, of course, wasn't supposed to be there. He was under contract with Hayes. So when the team photo was taken, you were there, Mitch was there. Coxey was there with his head down, so they wouldn't recognise him. But we got to have it. Hayes didn't find out till now.
No. The main thing about that trip was that I got a sponsor for it. This little flash guy from London that I was dealing with was a big courier service provider, and he sponsored the trip for us. And so we had Ken Hill, good old Ken Hill, said, "Come and stay at my resort." Yeah. And so we said, "Yeah, that'd be great." And this guy, Mark Chavot, he said, "Look, I want to go to the," it's a very flash gig. He said, "I want to go to the Cannes Film Festival. I want to drive into Cannes in a Ferrari. So can you get the blokes to organise me a Ferrari down there?" So we got to Ken Hill and he said, "Oh, it's okay. We've got a couple of cars on the site." So when we got down there were 2 Ford Cortinas and we were all in caravans. And Mark Chavot sent me a photograph of the pair of us with our Cortinas outside our caravan with the caption, "Next year we'll both be millionaires."
Yeah. Was it Mark who acted as your interpreter that week?
Was it what?
Did he act as interpreter? Or was it somebody else? Because somebody translated the report into English from the games.
Oh no, it wasn't Mark. I don't know anybody who did that. I mean, the first game, I don't think we finished it, did we? There was a bundle, wasn't there?
There was one in the second game as well.
Yeah, well, the referee though was French, and he came in to us and said, "Look, no tackling, I'll send you off." And then they started kicking us off the pitch.
Yeah. Then Trulock took over as referee
afterwards.
Sorry, Bernard, I'll talk about it. Sorry.
No, they wouldn't share a sandwich with us. Afterwards, they kept walking away as we were walking around the table. They kept walking around. Typical French.
We ended up with Steve Trulock as referee and Lee Page running one of the lines.
All right.
Anyway, enough of that one. Right, Jim Howard then goes before the end of the season, and Mitch comes back temporary as manager. Then comes permanent in the summer. The 91-92 season started getting Clarkey and those in, but it didn't take off, did it? It was 92-93. That was a big one.
Yeah.
By which time you sold Paul Hobson to get some money in as well.
Yeah. Well, I think was that the year we come second and we got the more points than any other league in the country. We finished second.
92-93, yeah.
Yeah, 95 points I think we got, didn't we?
Something like that, yeah.
It was an incredible season, really, wasn't it? That's a great game against Chesham, wasn't it? When we got like 3,000 odd people down at the park.
Allegedly 3,000, Bernard.
No, I never used to put the numbers down. I used to put the numbers up. I would play everybody because I wanted to encourage the blokes like Bob Bryant to push us downhill all the time at the Hearts Ad. You know, he was always writing us off if we lost one game. I wanted to, he could kill us with some of his reports. So I wasn't going to let him. So we always put a decent attendance down. But for that Chesham game, I think it was 3,500 real people there. Truthful.
Of course. Earlier in the season, Cheltenham Town, the FA Cup, that was a 3,000 gate declared.
That was that Jimmy Smith, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Bloke. Was that the same year we played Telford and beat them?
Yeah, that's right. That was
the match before at home by Cheltenham.
Sorry?
And then we got beaten at home by Cheltenham, 1-0.
2-1. Duff's put us up 1-up from the penalty.
Oh, yeah. So that was the story of our whole time there, really, that we never quite made it, did we? we were always nearly there. We'd get to a game that would maybe be a big influence on us if we won, and we'd lose it. You know, I remember Bristol City 9-2. We had 250 grand insurance policy on the bonus for the players, and I mean that was when Alan Randall decided to be very dramatic and leave out half the team from the first half. I think we did quite well in the second half, but we were 5-0 down at half time, weren't we? I remember them chairman trying to talk to me, and I didn't want to talk because I felt sick.
We're getting back to 92, 93. The tree is allegedly what stopped us getting promoted. What was it like? Because you were obviously involved in all the discussions with the council, with the league and whatnot.
Well, the council were adamant that we got a preservation order on the tree. You cannot chop it down. So we presented that to the conference. We got David Bellamy down there, and we got him on telly saying everybody should put an acorn behind their goal and they'll have an oak tree like St Albans. And anyway, the conference were just actually adamant to not let us up, and they wouldn't let us in, and that was why. That was the reason. I think they must have looked at a few of our other facilities and didn't think they were up to scratch, but the tree was what killed it. But downer that was for the whole club, really, because I mean Mitch then left because he was disillusioned. We then got to carry on, you know, when you're thinking you can't get promoted anymore. You know, it was a bit of a down moment, wasn't it?
Had we gone up, how do you think we would have coped financially? Because it would have been a big step from where we were.
It would have been tough, but we always got there. We always got there in the end. We have a load of it all going up. We used to organise the sports dinners over at the Watford Hilton, and we'd get 400 people there. And with the business contacts, we would honour a player. It wasn't for St Albans overtly. We would honour Tommy Docherty, and he would turn up, and we get 400 people, and we'd make $4,000, and that would go into the club. I remember once when we had this amazing table. We got Frank McClintock, Ozzy Ardiles, I think we had George Best there, all these players on the top table. And I remember preparing my speech at work to say the opening speech, and I kept getting Keith O'Keefe's name, the comedian, muddled up with Kevin O'Keefe. And I only went and said, we've got a great comedian afterwards, Kevin O'Keefe. And he said, the effing name's Keith, actually. I said, sorry. He said, you will be. And he made me suffer for the whole night. But we always had to do something to just make the money. So it was a daunting task to be in a conference, but we could have done it. When we basically, my whole time that I was there, we balanced the books internally in the time that I was there. Forget the debt that we took on at the beginning, that was most probably still there at the end. But in the meantime, we balanced everything, you know? And we just avoided, we had a good manager at Inland Revenue. He was a St Albans fan. And so he just said he would collect the debt. Nice. And then good bank manager. In fact, the bank manager, we had Barclays, because I think Bob had organised about a 40 grand overdraft unsecured with Barclays. And when we sold Tony Kelly, I remember the manager phoning me up and saying, we haven't seen the money come through the bank account. We said, well, if I put the money in, will you still keep us to the overdraft? No way. I said, well, that's why you ain't getting it. He just stayed unsecured forever.
92-93 season, Lee, that was your first one? Memories, questions?
It was the first, yeah. That's when I sort of went the most at the start. I went to sort of a few games the season before. As you sort of said, sort of the likes of Austin and Paul Hobson in particular. He was sort of the local lad, wasn't he? And he was sort of seen as the next thing, but obviously he moved on. But 92-93, I don't think, Bernard, you have any real sort of comprehension about just how influenceable that season was on so many people. I can guarantee you, I can walk around the terraces of Clarence Park now and I will find 100 odd people whose first season was that one. Just the style of football, the players, but also the characters, you know. And it was interesting to see how we're talking about these formations now and people being too intricate, Guardiola, for example, but then you solid 4-4-2. Mitch was an absolute stonewall, wasn't he, for the 4-4-2, and he loved that. Proper wingers. You had a ball-winning midfielder and a creative midfielder, a number 10, and then a striker. So it was fantastic to watch.
Yeah, I went back to the club last year, I think it was, when Kevin Mudd organised a reunion, and we all agreed. We thought, it's amazing. We had all these amazing players, great characters, but we didn't actually win anything. And we couldn't work out why, because we should have done, really, with all those players. And we had blokes like, I think Danzey arrived by then, and do you remember the penalty he took? I think it was at Bromley. Did you go? And no, Cockers was the manager then, so it was a bit later.
Yeah.
And he told Danzey, just sign for us, take the penalty. And he told him to run up and kick it sideways, and then he would run in and kick it in. And so Danzey kicked it sideways, and Cocker said to everybody, "Don't move when he does it." So he just thought, it cost us 400 quid, because if we had a 4-goal difference, you get 400 quid bonus from the league. And so I wasn't over happy, actually.
But you say there, Bernard, that you didn't win anything. Without wanting to sound too much like a little fanboy, you actually won the hearts of so many residents of St Albans in that, because that then sets the seed from 92, 90, 93, then extends on, doesn't it? And when sort of Cockers come in charge and that Alamo style football, just
it was great football, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that's what we decided we had to do. We had to sign these players and get some exciting football going. So we were a bit like the Invincibles at Arsenal, when you could watch the team and you knew that there was going to be 3 or 4 moves and suddenly it'd just be a goal. They'd just put their foot down, wouldn't they, and they'd do it. We scored some amazing goals. I remember one of the ones I remember giving Alan Cochrane goal of the season, when we had a corner and he stopped the ball on their line with the keeper behind him, dribbled out of the penalty area. And Mitch got up to slag him off as he turned around and hit it in the top corner.
That's a way to Enfield.
There's all those amazing things we used to do. It was exciting football, wasn't it? It was football with a smile on our faces.
Well, you look at the club then, Bernard. In you, we had a pretty flamboyant chairman. We had a charismatic manager in John Mitchell, still popular from his first time at the club and his first stint as manager. And on the pitch, you had a very flamboyant team. Steve Clark, Bob Dowie, Alan Cochrane, Martin Duffield, Jimmy King, Dean Williams, Kevin Mudd, later on John Daly, Sean Brett. As you're right, it should have won things. All right, it won some minor cups.
Gary Westwood.
Gary Westwood. Yeah.
He was a great signing, because he was a fantastic goalkeeper. I remember even Mitch saying to me, if we sign this guy, he's worth like 10 points a year to us, because he'll save so many goals. And he did. He was outstanding. So
you should have put Peter Risley on that list as well.
But we also played games like, do you remember, was it Carshall? Remember when we 3 or 4-0 down at half time? And 3. And then we come back, we won 4-3, didn't we?
5-3.
5-3, yeah. The funny story was, at half time, Mitch went in and he went to kick the table to knock all the tea off the table. The table was nailed to the ground.
He damaged his shin, apparently, didn't he? Quite badly.
But there was always something happening, wasn't there?
What's it like for you, Jake? I know you're on the outside of this, talking of an era like this.
It's just great to hear all these old memories, and it is. You can still, everyone, like they said, everyone talks about the 92, 93 season, even now. It just shows how much of an impact it has. But I wanted to ask Bernard, just as a general question, how fun was it being chairman of the club that season? No.
It was great fun. The problem, match days were great. In between match days were a nightmare, because you had to give yourself 100% to the club. Every day the club was on your mind. And either we wanted to move a player out, or Mitch wanted to bring somebody new in, and it needed dough. And Bill Nick was always telling us we never had any money. So it was sort of worry, but we always knew we'd get by, and that's why we were promoting the tendencies at the ground to say, come and watch St Albans, because it's a weird thing. Even that year, I always remember my old man telling me that I didn't know how to run a football club at all, because we had the Chesham game on the Saturday, then we had Wivenhoe on the Tuesday night. And from 3,000 odd from Chesham, we got 220 from for Witherstone, who's giving me a rollicking, saying, you know, you can't run the club like that. But I mean, that's what happens. Can you imagine if Liverpool was playing Burnley and they'd only get 2,000, and then they'd play Man United and fill the ground? That's what it was like for us. We could. It's hard to get people through the ground. And we're also well reliant on people like Bob Bryant. You know, he used to slag us off in the Hearts Advertiser all the time, write us off right from the very beginning. And I had to ban him from the ground, which is terrible, really, isn't it? You've got the major press man in the town, and you got to not let him in. But it was fun. The games were great. And I remember it's a marriage breaker in a way, because we'd be celebrating and I wouldn't get home till like midnight from a 3 o'clock kickoff. You know?
You mentioned you brought quite a few sponsorships in. Of course, you appointed John Colfer as full-time commercial manager. How did he get on in your eyes?
How did he get on?
Yeah,
he did all right. Colfer was a good lad. He was a very enthusiastic. But we brought the ticket system in so that we could use tickets for attendances. And suddenly our attendances went up a lot, and our gate money went up a lot. I'm not saying anything about that, but suddenly we had security. Do you remember we had security on the gates, and they were issuing the tickets, and so John Colfer had to account for all the tickets in and out, and he did a good job. He also linked very well with our sponsors. It's not just about getting new ones; it's about keeping the ones you've got. And Colfer's a good lad, very good. And then we had Graham McDougall, didn't we? And he was even better.
Well, he said, "Did you get him cheap?"
Did I get? Yeah.
Graham wants to know if you got him cheaply. I wouldn't have thought so.
If I got him cheap, Graham cheap.
Yeah.
No, he was always after more money, wasn't he? But I said, you can have a percentage, you get some sponsorship in, you can have some money. But we ain't paying, we ain't brought in here to bloody make your living for you. We brought you in here to help the club. You know, we're all basically volunteers, aren't we? But we've got a commercial man, and fair enough, he had to be paid. But everybody else was a volunteer down there, wasn't they?
Didn't he drive in a hard bargain in Euro 96 when Holland and the Czech Republic were training down the park, and he tried to screw the organisers for every penny he could?
It was only Holland, and we didn't have, I don't know, the Czech Republic, but Holland. And, you know, we'd organised all the boards around the ground, and it was like the night before their turn up, Denmark. I can't remember the name of the bloke, because the commercial director at the FA phoned me up and said to me, "You can't put those boards up because we've sold all the boards for Euro 96. You've got to put our boards up." And we said, "Well, look, we're a little club. You're the FA. You're meant to help us." And so he said, "Take the boards." I said, "I'll tell you something. I ain't taking the boards down. If you want to sue me, whatever you want, but we ain't taking the boards down." Anyway, he then said, "Okay, well, we're going to ban you." So I phoned up the chairman of the Holland team, and I phoned him up and I said, "I just thought I'd let you know the FA are trying to stop you practicing." "Pardon?" He said, "Yeah, they said they're going to ban you from the ground, so you haven't got anywhere else to train, have you?" He said, "Leave it to me." He phoned up the chairman, and suddenly we were all right again. But this bloke said, "I said, I'll never forget you, and I'm going to get you. We're going to get you in your little club, you know." And I said, "Hang on, you're the FA. You're meant to be helping us." But it was good fun though, watching Holland. The way they trained great.
It sounds it, yeah.
It was good fun. But we always had these controversies. Do you remember Bergerano at the what's that hotel called? Somerville House? And he used to get England team, or Lazio, I remember. And I get a phone call at work saying, Bergerano's down there, he's just broken all the locks open, and he got the Lazio team training, saying he owns the club. I mean, go down and chuck him out. And Gaza was there. You have to chuck him out. And then we let Gaza play on. But so we had those sort of trials and tribulations as well. The Sun and the Mirror wanted to come in. I wouldn't let him in unless they gave us some money, because they wanted to photo Gaza, didn't they? So we had these confrontations quite a bit, but it was all in the best intentions for the club. You know, it's to make more money for the club.
Well, the same thing about confrontations, Bernard. This is almost the ongoing problem that's been going on ever since then. The club trying to get a new ground. Goodness, you had some arguments with the council.
God, well, it's bloody hopeless. I said one of our great signings at the time when we were doing all those signings was Malcolm Macmillan. Actually, he's still there, isn't he? And he was a brilliant signing. He made a bridge between us and the council, but even he couldn't make them work very, very well, you know. And I remember we got some woman councillor, Ruth, somebody or other, came down. And she said, "Why do you charge to come in? I run a netball team. We don't charge people to come and see us, buddy." I didn't have any understanding about St Albans City Football Club, you know. And then, of course, we also used to get letters from the council, particularly after Dreamflight and all of that. All we'd ever get is a letter from them saying, "You created all this rubbish and you brought the town to a standstill. It's a disgrace."
Well, not only that, you're restricted when you could train down there, weren't you? And a couple of times it got reported that we trained down there when we shouldn't have done. And it's ridiculous how you could carry on at that level of football with those restrictions.
Well, they kept on. They weren't that helpful. But then we had the league as well, didn't we? The Ishmael League with Mr. Turvey, and I joined the management committee of the league because I wanted to stop us getting fined, you know, because they kept fining us for everything. Once you got on the committee, they'd all give you the wink and the nudge and say, "Don't worry about that, we won't get fined anymore." And so I remember what was the game we had when it was Euro '96. And we then had the Arsenal. We had the first Arsenal game. Good old John Adams. I mean, he was invaluable, John Adams. Yeah, he got the Arsenal friendly down there, which we made quite a bit of money out of. And I invited Alan Turvey, who's the chairman of the league, to come and watch it and give him beers and drinks and everything. And he watched the whole game and everything. And he said at the end of the game, "It's such a shame that I'm going to have to report you to the FA." I said, "What?" He said, "You played a game illegally." "How have I played a game illegally?" They said, "Because Euro '96 went on for an extra week, our close season went on another week. You played a game in the close season. So I'm reporting you to the FA." I had to go up to the FA. They wanted to fine us like 10,000 quid. They wanted to fine me personally. I said, "You can't fine me personally. We're a limited company." But so all this time you get all this grief going on. I got to know the FA people quite well, particularly after the Brimsdown Rovers.
I was going to say.
So, Mr. Tominey, you again. Team with two fingers, is it?
Hello.
It's like,
Hello.
But Brimsdown Rovers, you got fined because of Brimsdown.
Brimsdown.
I think you got the biggest fine. John Mitchell got fined. Ron Duke got fined. What are your memories on that night? It was a stormy night.
It was a stormy night. Well, yeah, we finished. We were over there, weren't we? We finished the game and we'd lost. And Mitch said, "Oh, look, Bob Dowie's getting involved with the referee or something." So I said, "Get on there and sort him out, get him away." So Mitch goes on and he starts arguing with the referee. So I think, well, I better go on and start. So I go on and I start arguing with the referee as well. So we all got reported to the FA, got up there. Not only did we get fined, but I got fined the most. And it's gone on so long, this blooming hearing. When I went out, my car was clamped. Not a great day.
But at the end of the game at Brimsdown, there was a great long walk from there to the dressing rooms, and the referee got heckled all the way by the City supporters. And Steve Truelock was secretary at the time, and he still lives off his story. He got called in by the referee as well, and in he goes, and the referee said, "I want the names of those who abusing me and whatnot." And Steve said, "What, all of them?"
Brilliant. That's a real good Steve Truelock story. I can imagine him saying that, yeah. Well, it's a most peculiar hearing, though, because when you go up to the FA, they've got like a green baize football pitch on their table. And there's all these old boys from like the universities and the army, all of FA representatives going through it. And I remember Mitch was accused of eyeballing, and this old boy said, "Excuse me, what does eyeballing mean?" So he had to explain. He said, "Well, what's wrong with that?" And then the referee also said to Mitch, "Oh, one of his things he put in his report, I thought he was going to hit me." So Mitch said, "Well, did I hit you?" He goes, "Well, no." He said, "Well, why do you think I was going to hit you then? You a psychologist?" He goes, "No, but you looked as if you were going to hit me." So it was a complete joke hearing, really. But that was the trouble. It gets you do get your emotions going when you get involved. Because again, it was a cup run, wasn't it, that we could have. And there we go, out the blooming cup, which was annoying.
You mentioned Arsenal. We had Bruce Rioch brought the first team down. Following year, Arsene Wenger brought the first team down. Tottenham sent the first team down with David Ginola. Great times for you and the club.
Yeah, there were great times. Yeah, I remember Arsenal coming. Actually, one of the teams that came down as well was West Brom. I think when Ozzy was the manager, Ronnie Allen. I was a West Brom fan when I was a kid as well. Yeah. And one of my heroes was Ronnie Allen. We got Ronnie Allen in the boardroom with us. I just couldn't believe it. So this opportunity to meet all these people. And then when we had Big Ron down when we were trying to sell Barry Blackman, and he come down, said he could only stay for 5 minutes and left at about 1:30 in the morning, having drunk all the booze and eaten all the food. And then took all our gate money he wanted it for the players' pool.
Barry Blackman saga, Bernard. You touted him around about 20 professional clubs, I think. You probably started at about 500,000 again. Didn't you also go up with him to, where was it, Wolves or one of the clubs up there?
Yes, I did. Yes, we went to Wolves because we had a scout from Wolves who used to come down. I got to know him quite well, and he liked Barry Blackman, and so no, he was a scout. Yeah, he was a scout for Wolves because Graham Taylor was manager then at Wolves, wasn't he? And so he recommended it. We had a meeting with Graham Taylor, and actually it didn't go terribly well because Cockers. I said to Cocker said, "Oh, hello, Mr. Taylor." He said, "It's all right. You can call me Graham. What do I call you?" He said, "Mr. Cochrane." He put his back up, but that's typical Cockers, isn't it? Anyway, so we went up. He had to play in a game, some team or other. It might have been Chesham against Wolves, and he had to play the first half for Chesham, and he got pulled off at half time, and he thought he'd had it, but Graham Taylor put him in the Wolves shirt. Said, "Go on and play." And he got a hat-trick in the second half. So Graham Taylor said, "Come up to the club up next week." It was really friendly. We had this lovely dinner afterwards and everything. When we got to Wolves, he was as cold as anything. And he sent Blackman over to train with the youth team. And we were saying, like, what's all this about? We haven't come here to train with the youth team. And he didn't like it. He said, "Well, I'm too busy doing all that." That's why you shouldn't have asked us up. Anyway, he put us up in this old shack of a hotel, which I complained about. I said, "We don't want to stay in a blooming hotel like this. This is our star player. Barry Blackman is 21. Blackman said, "Oh, well, did you tell him I am?" I said, "You're 21, I'm 28. Sorry. Anyway, so some incidents happened at the hotel in the night involving the Wolves youth team and our lads. And in the morning, I think Graham Taylor advised that it might be better if we were to go somewhere else. And so we left. But at the time, Barry Neville, do you remember Barry Neville, who was our vice chairman? And he was Sheringham's agent.
That's right, yeah.
And he was selling Ellacott to Big Ron at the time. So we're up there and said, "Barry, can you get us a trial with Big Ron for Barry?" Because actually Barry Neville was, I couldn't believe it, was Blackman's blooming agent. Comes in and says, "I'm the agent for Barry Blackman." What, we're an amateur club. He said, anyway, so he got us an appointment for a trial for him to play Rotherham, Coventry against Rotherham. And he did really well, scored a goal. Next day he was training. And if my memory serves me right, someone come in and said, "Oh, your lad's just like done his cruise ship or something in training." But Big Ron said, "Doesn't matter, that needn't stop the deal." "They do this and do that." I said, "No, we can't do that. We can't do that." So anyway, we turned down his move, and I think that was the end of the Blackman story, really. Yeah. We were promoting him as the Eric Cantona of non-league football, and he was good though, wasn't he?
He was good, not quite what Cantona, but there you go. Do you think it affected his career in the end? The fact that it fell through,
possibly. But I'm not sure really. I mean, even when we went to Wolves, the first thing we were trying to find the ground, and he go, "Oh, could we find the job centre?" "Well, we're on job centre." "I've got to go and collect my doll." I said, "Barry, concentrate on the football, for goodness sake." But I think he did get a bad injury up there, and I think that's what affected him afterwards.
Yeah. Well, one transfer that went very smoothly, I guess, was Dean Williams to Brentford. That was no problem, was it?
Well, because we knew Dave Webb, and he had done the deal with us with Dean Austin, and he liked Dean Williams and said, I'll tell you what, I'll do the same deal, 15 grand plus 25% on sale. But I know I was speaking out of turn, but when the next time I saw Dave Webb, he said to me, that's the last time we do any business with you. He said, you never told me about his dad. And he said, I've tore his contract up and told him to leave the ground. Not because he's a bad lad, but his old man kept writing me letters all the time, telling me what I should be doing. So that fell through really in the end, but it did go through smoothly. Then we had Danzey, went to Cambridge United, didn't he?
Yeah.
That's when John Beck was their manager. Anyway, he just said, I want to sign a player of yours. Who? He said, I don't care. I said, I can't care. As he turned around, Danzey scores a goal. He says, he'll do. So that's why we got in the Telegraph. I think that Danzey gets sold to Cambridge without playing a first team game for St Albans. There's some strange individuals around, though. I mean, even dealing with Terry Venables when Dean Austin went on to Tottenham, you know, they're all demanding off you all the time, you know. I remember I had to go and meet Terry at his club in London, Regent Street or somewhere, and Eric Hall and all that lot of hangers-on were all there, and he was signing off all the dinners for all of them. Eric was sitting with his big monster cigar, and anyway, he wanted to do a deal on Dean Austin, but we said no, we can't do that deal.
You said about how demanding it was as chairman, Bernard. When you finished with us, what was your life like then? Did it feel a bit empty as well as a lot of the pressure relieved?
I'll tell you, the first day I walked on the market on a Saturday afternoon, and I felt like a 10-ton weight had come off my head. It's just the sheer pressure of it, constant pressure, day in, day out, you know, all those issues to deal with. Because there was, I suppose, the main problem about football is more negative moments than there are positive generally, aren't there? You know, you tend to lose the important games more than you win. I mean, what big games did we win? You know, we lost to Bristol City, we lost to Cheltenham, we beat Telford. That was the great day, wasn't it? Yeah. With Cockers, was it Cockers and Duffs smoking the cigars and drinking brandy in the Holiday Inn afterwards? Now they're the days that make it all worthwhile.
And Ray McCaw throwing up on the M6 on the way back. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know. Then we had Bristol City. That was a sickening moment, and losing our manager shortly afterwards.
Very shortly on the coach on the way back, wasn't it?
Well,
it's funny. You went from Alan Cochrane as manager. You won't get a better player to have played for St Albans than Alan Cochrane.
No.
He was without compare. And he's a very flamboyant manager, and it was reflected in the style of his team. Then we went to Alan Randall, more defensively minded, totally the opposite of Cockers.
Well, I was recommended Alan Randall. I can't remember who recommended. They said, you know, everybody was telling me Alan Randall's a man to sign.
He did work alongside Cockers for a while, didn't he? Beforehand.
Yeah, and they say he's really professional. He's hard nosed. It's completely opposite than Alan. But I thought he'd be okay. He was okay until that game, and you know, I remember that morning I got everybody booked into the Bristol Hilton, and the players all sat in the reception area. I said, "Where is Alan Randall?" He wouldn't come out of his room until like 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock or something. And by that time, the players had all got, you know, sitting in a hotel foyer. It's not the greatest place to sit, is it? And then he left out. Did he leave Clarkey out in the first half?
No.
I remember he made some strange decisions. I think we had 3 at the back, didn't we? We had that little winger of theirs. We've been to see them in the week with Cockers, see Bristol City. We saw this little lad on the wing. I thought, it's frightened us to death. The next thing, Alan's put 3 at the back against him, and the bloke just slaughtered us.
Greenwich or someone like that, his name, something like that.
Yeah. So 9-2. I remember trying to get full payment off Sky. I said, you know, you're showing our goals all the time. It's almost like the whole game. Giving us 60 grand or whatever it was for it.
Worth trying.
Worth a try, yeah. But yeah, Cockers was good as a manager, wasn't he? Even though he did tricks like, actually, I had him down. He came down. We watched the Euros down here together. His sister's got a house just down the road from where I'm here in Spain. And so we were in these bars, and his sister's crazy as ever. Great lad. And we were going over all the old days and everything. The penalty that went sideways. Him refusing to do the kick in. Do you remember?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
And we got all the publicity for not doing it. It worked in
yeah,
our
but
favour.
Alan said he was going to fine us if we didn't do it. We said, well, you can't fine us. It's optional, you know. We said, no, but we're doing the experiment. You've got to do a kick in. And I remember one kick in, some team took from inside their half, and it went over the bar. It's not great football, is it? But also, do you remember players like Robbie Peters that we signed?
Mm.
He's on loan from Brentford. What a player he was, eh? Yeah. Great little player. And so I think we had some really, really good players. Really, and it was flamboyant style. It was very much. I later on went on and got Arsenal season tickets in their heyday at the Emirates and everything. Not the Emirates, at that time, at Highbury. And St Albans was a similar match to the way Arsenal played. They'd be breathtaking. Suddenly they would hit the attack and be a gorgeous goal would get scored. And so I think football sort of scales down. I think some of those players could have easily played at a much higher level.
You saw some great wingers in the 60s, Bernard, but what about Jimmy King?
Jimmy King was amazing, wasn't he? I mean, I saw the podcast with Steve Clark and he just said, Jimmy just find me every time. He knew exactly what they were a great pair together, weren't they? What great. He was apparently, Bobby Robson said his 10th best thing he ever did in football was signing Jimmy King with it. But then Bobby Robson got fired or left Ipswich and some new bloke took over and didn't like him. And he got sidelined. But what a player he was. We had Brian Steen, we had some good players. Paul Price. I remember Paul Price once, he just headed the ball about 100 feet up in the air. And Mitch said, you know why he did that? I said, no, why? He said, because there's nobody around to help him. And he's just bought himself some time, you know. So he had these ex-pros with really, really good brains on them, you know. And I remember even when I used to go sometimes training and that, and Mitch would say, look, Alan Murray would say, if he puts the ball down for a free kick, it's going to go far post. If he drops it on the ground, it goes near post. So it's all those little tricks that you got to know are invaluable. And we had all those friendly games as well, didn't we? I remember scoring the winner against Kuwait. It was the 8th goal.
That was a crucial 8th goal, yeah.
That was a day when actually I forgot my boots and I had to borrow Steve Clark's. It was about an inch too big, and if they hadn't been that big, I would have missed the ball completely.
We had some great publicity out of those Q8 games. Ian Ridley was working for a Telegraph or the Guardian then. He gave a big write-up. Mesa Hall, stepson of Bob Murphy, he gave a big write-up, one of the Nationals. They were good games for the club.
They were. Well, I mean, I remember we played an old West Ham team, and I remember I was playing and I was on the halfway line, and the ball came out from the keeper and I went to trap it. But as the ball came down, Billy Bonds goes past me and I run my foot all the way down the back of his ankle. And he's lying on the floor swearing at me and telling me what he was going to do to me. And he also said, keep out of his way, he'll do you. And so for the rest of the game, he chased me all over the pitch.
Well, I remember a match where you did get injured. St Albans City Reserves, away to Colchester United.
Oh, right, 19-0. No, 19.
Well, you had gone one now. I think it was about 5 when you went off, wasn't it? Maybe not even that many. You went off in about 20 minutes.
No, I was only about 10 minutes in.
Yeah.
And the
so a broken ankle.
Biggest insult was made me pay a deposit of 50p for one of their. They only had one crutch. So anyway, I never give it back. That's a little bloke, because I'd broken my other leg in the couple of seasons before when Barry Neville, of all people, in a charity game, come in and took me out. Well, this little bloke took me out. But remember, though, that Colchester game was great. I remember giving the goalkeeper the man of the match. I said, without him, we'd have been hammered.
That was Dave St Turin, wasn't it? I've also got to mention Steve Livingston played in that game, because he keeps asking us to mention this one.
All right.
Not our finest moment, but
it was 5-0 at half time, though, wasn't it? And
it was, yeah.
But we joined that league because we could get Arsenal and Tottenham reserves playing it, because, again, John Adams had organised for Arsenal to play their friendlies. Well, no, Tottenham to play their friendlies with us. And so we got the Arsenal-Tottenham reserve. We get 2,500 people for that. You know, that's generating us money. Because I'd closed down the reserves because there was no link between the reserves and the first team. It was costing about 10 grand a year. So we said, let's not do it. Then I invented the Billy Minter Trophy, with the total objective of attracting any club that could bring fans. And we got Aldershot, didn't we? So in 2000, and do we still play the Billy Minter?
No, I think the last one was away to Wroxham, which wasn't quite a sellout.
Oh, wasn't it? No, well, that wasn't the objective. The objective was not to get money in. But
Lee, any questions or points?
Not really. It was just fascinating to hear like all the little stories and the nuggets that Bernard, you know, they don't see the cold light of day, you know, and it's now what you've said just absolutely corresponds to the time of the characters and the style of play. And you could just imagine Cockers and Duffs having cigars and brandy, and you can just imagine Alan Randall, you know, skulking at the back of the coach on the way home from Bristol City. So yeah. I just want to say in my sort of closing gambit that it's been an absolutely pleasure just to have these ears and listen to those little stories over the last hour.
Nice, thanks. I didn't realise. I knew he did all right, but yeah, it's great. It's great. I did put down a few things about what problems did I have. And I've got Brimsdown, Bob Brighton, Bergerano, Euro 96, Arsenal friendly,
David Tavener,
and Kingstonian. Kingstonian. Do you remember when Barry Neville ripped the shirt off the referee at the end of the game as he went down the tunnel, and the referee was going to report us to the FA, and he said, "That's your vice chairman, isn't it?" I said, "No, it's not our vice chairman." So I remember in the programme they'd forgotten to put him in it, and so we denied that he was vice chairman, and we got away with it. So he was just a fan. But that's what you had to do. So that. What else did we? Oh, Roy of the Rovers. Do you remember Roy of the Rovers?
Yeah, Barry Tomlinson.
A complete nutcase, wasn't he? Because I remember he worked within in one of the Maxwell companies when I was working for Maxwell, and so we got the chief exec of that business said, "I can get Roy of the Rovers down there if you want." What was his name again, the bloke?
Barry Tomlinson. He still lives in St Albans, Bernard.
So I met with Barry, and he said, "Well, I think actually, if I'm correct, I think Roy's free on Tuesday." So okay, well, I'll bring him down, you know. So he said, okay. So he agreed to do the sponsorship, and he brought the life-size model of Roy the Rover. The next thing is he's come to the ground with the statue of Roy, life-size. Next thing is coming to me crying his eyes out. Someone's kicked his head off. Cockers, who did that? Nobody would own up. Anyway, he cancelled his sponsorship as that because he lost his head.
Yeah, and a bit more, I think, before the end of the night.
Yeah, I think so. But other good things, we did get the council lease eventually, didn't we?
Yeah, first time we'd had a lease.
Moved. What I put at the end, we were excited even if we didn't win much. It was a good run, wasn't it?
I remember your first season, the admission was £2.
Oh, don't start. Don't start.
How much is it now, Dave?
Bill Nick was always on at me about it. They're all moaning. Well, everyone. Yeah, they're all moaning. Didn't we end up at about a tenner or something by the time we finished, didn't we?
Probably.
But when you think, I mean, we were paying out about £4.5 a week in wages. And if you've got 600 people paying a £5 and they get a game every 2 weeks, it's not great, is it? No. And unfortunately, there's 40 weeks to go. It was always, actually, the biggest problem was always used to happen around February, by which time we're out of every cup. And you only had one every 2 weeks. And it was bloody cold as well. But we had a lot of great volunteers down there. Truelock was brilliant. You were brilliant, Dave, in your own way. You always had principles. I could never make him bloody bend it. And say,
apart from when I quit, when I ran up to Bristol City, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But it was good times. In fact, I've been back a couple of times when I was in England, and I enjoyed it still. Although they don't play the football like we played. They're sort of more like little athletes now, aren't they? They're all running all over the place.
Modern game is tedious.
Yeah, it is tedious.
Yeah.
Our game day was good. We had a great pitch and everything. In fairness, the council boys that looked after the pitch were brilliant, weren't they? It was always in perfect condition. So
To a degree.
no regrets. No regrets. I thoroughly enjoyed all the time.
Right, we've got to cut it, Bernard, because I think we're running over time.
Okay.
You've been absolutely brilliant. It's been great having you on.
Oh, thanks very much. You've been brilliant as well, you lot. So it's brilliant.
Thank you very much, Bernard.
Take care, Bernard.
See you.
Good luck out in Spain, Bernard. Hope it all goes well.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah.
Cheers.
Okay. See you all. Cheers, Dave.